us for this new webinar. Very honored today to welcome the incredible, the one and only one, producer Danja.
The one and only.
Yes, thanks for joining us.
No problem. So do I just jump right in?
And let's do it. We got a lot of questions already.
All right, I see. All right, I'm gonna go to the top. Um, please y'all check in and let me know where y'all at, where y'all from. I just like to know where everybody is that keeps track of me a little bit. That would be cool. I see Paris, I see Argentina. Thought I seen London earlier, Russia, um, Vegas. Cheers from Vegas. Where else? Belarus. Is that right? Am I saying that right? What else? Miami, VA, Italy, Toronto, Newcastle, Switzerland, LA, Brooklyn, Romania, Canada, Nova Scotia. All right, y'all in there. All right. I'm gonna start from the top. Let me see. Um, Michael Jung, he says he likes my upholstered room. That actually isn't my studio. It's a studio I work in LA called NRG. It has like three different rooms that got like two of the rooms specifically has very cool vibes. I love working there. It's just very nostalgic. Infamous rock studio, some infamous rock projects was recorded there. NRG in LA. All right, here we go. Um, let's see. Let me get a good one. Okay, what's this? IL? Is that IL? Your question is, what's your favorite source in the box for drum sounds? I want you to ask me that question again and be more clear, and I'll come back to that question. Mike L. I'm a big fan. Can you explain to us how um, the beat to give it to me, and what's the secret to make drums sound like that? Are these drums got some you all over the place? Anyway, here it is. Give it to me. So give it to me was done um, when me and Tim was working those years ago. He would record a lot of drums live. He called it the junkyard. That whole style was called the junkyard. So he abandoned sequences. Like he just stopped sequencing in a DAW system or the ASR or anything like that. It was no more of that. It was all him banging on anything he can get his hands on to create his drum pattern. So it would be a rake, pots, pans, congos, snare drums, kick drums, all separate things that it would be mics all throughout the live room, maybe 4 or 5 mics, more or less, all over the room. And the engineer Demo and Marcella at the time would just capture his drum sound wherever the room, however the room was. So it was really his live feel and his live touch. And then we would stack it with, you know, program drums, kicks, snares, and things that we had in the box. So I would stack it with some stuff from the MPC to make it, you know, beefier and hit harder. But, you know, it was the way that they had the stuff panned and the spread on the drums. We would stack the snares 3 or 4 times, stack the kicks 3 or 4 times to create just this wide drum sound. And then I would come on top of it. As he's creating the drums, I would be um, adding melody, adding chord progressions, adding bass lines, doing all different types of things. So we kind of was recording at the same time. But that was basically the process. So imagine a big room, let's say a room that's 20 by 20, and you have a mic, just mics set up in the room, not necessarily mics mic'd on the individual instrument, and we just capture the sound. So that's how the sound. Some drums sound like it's far back in the room. Some sound a little bit closer, depending on where the mic was at, and that's how we got that sound. So that sound was used on Promiscuous, on Give It to Me, on countless records. You know, on a Danny D. King record, on records on his Shock Value. That was just the style that we created at that time, and that's why that stuff sound like that. Let me see. Next question. Uh, Let me see. Let me see. Let me see. See, Mike L, you asked some really good questions, but I can't answer all your questions. I'm gonna come back to some of them though. Okay, Mr. Who, how well mixed master should a beat be before you send it to an artist? So I feel like you don't have to go all the way in. Some people can understand a demo, some people can't. I would say make it sound as good as you feel comfortable with. If you feel comfortable sending it out sounding like a scratch, that's fine. If you feel good, if you really want to make sure that sonically it's competing with a lot of things um, that everybody's getting, you got to understand that I'm sending music to people. Um, Timberland sending music to people. Hit Boy sending music. You know, all of us are sending music to some of the same people, so it has to compete. So keep that in your mind when you go to sit down and you create and you want your things sonically sound good. You know how all of these people music sound. Yeah, I'm able to get away with some demos sometimes because they know how I'm going to make it sound. But you competing with, you know, thousands of people to get a placement. So you want to make sure yours is cutting through and yours at least sounds sonically close to what they're used to hearing or close to what it would sound like on the radio. So I wouldn't say go as far as mix because another thing that can get in the way is demoitis. They hear things a certain way, and when you go to mix it, and you don't achieve that sound, you're not able to duplicate that sound. You know, that's a problem. They get stuck wanting a demo. Um, and you know, that's just trying to undo what you did or redo what you did. It's a task that you don't want to try to compete. You don't want to put yourself in a position where you compete against yourself. So leave space for improvement in your mix. Leave space. Leave a little bit of room where things can be improved. So you know, people don't get so married to it, and it has enough space to sound better. I think that's the best way to answer that question. Um, Let me see. Hmm. Do I use any synths from Ableton's? Mike L, you almost got me again. You got some good questions. Um, let's see, let's see, let's see. I'm skimming through, but because I want to get to some of these. Hmm. Speechless, is that your name? I want you to elaborate on that question for me, and I'll come back to it. Beta Zinc, do you use mid-side EQ, and if so, for what use? Uh, I'm not sure. Like my approach normally is, of course, I want my things to sound a certain way, so I would do things in my creative process and to make my track sound good. So this is the thing. I use Ableton. Straight out of the box, I don't feel like Ableton. I'm used to an MPC. I'm used to analog sound. I'm used to things coming out of an MPC already banging. That was my issue with Logic, and that was my issue with Ableton. It doesn't come out as full as an MPC. So I've been actually, and maybe you guys can help me. What's a good master chain that you think I could put on my master bus on the output? because I've been experimenting with different ways to make my drums really hit and really sound big and full, coming straight out of the box, coming straight out of the machine without feeling like I have to super EQ anything. So I do my share of EQs, and I do my share of beefing up the sounds and compression and things like that. But I try not to go overboard because I have a mixer and I have an engineer, and I don't want to do anything to get in their way of what they have to do, because I don't necessarily deal with vocals. I deal with the music. Um, and then I hand it off to the mixer. I hand it off to Marcella or whoever to mix, and they have to be able to utilize all frequencies, including the vocals. So if I'm only mixing music, it's only one perspective of a record. So it doesn't make sense for me to go all out with my bottom, all out with my mid range and high end on a beat when there's a vocal on it. If there's a vocal on it, these things have to work together. So the engineer has a better idea of where to put the low end based on where they want to mix the vocals. So I try not to go so far with EQing and compressing and just mixing my beat. Of course, I want it to sound good, but I don't go crazy. So I hold back a little bit. A lot of it comes from sound selection. Pick great sounds. If you pick great sounds and place them in in a proper place, just uh, in your little mix, in your little, where you want to put things at, where you have your kicks sitting, your snares sitting, and all that. Just have those things sitting in a good enough space where you got plenty of headroom, and your sound will open up tremendously. Just don't have things slamming and loud and extra loud and crazy for nothing. But it's all about gain staging. All right, let me see. Let me move on. Cass Asani, from purely artistic standpoint, what's your favorite beat you ever produced and why? My favorite beat that's out, because I think what I'm doing right now, I'm probably making my most favorite music that I've ever made. I'm just in such a high creative mode. It's unexplainable. And it's such a high and it's such a refreshing thing for me. I don't want to lose that. So I'm just in that mode creating. Obviously, I've been working on some projects that, lend to me having a high creative output. So it opened up some doors and opened up the gate in a way to where I I've tapped into some very different things, and I love what I'm doing now. But I don't know, that's a hard question. I've done a lot of records that I feel like I love. My I'm so critical of myself. I just want to outdo myself. Um, Tell me what your favorite, and maybe I can tell you how I did it, what I did, what I was thinking. So you tell me what your favorite was. Let's see. Let's go to Autoclave Beats from Nigeria. What's up? Please, where do you get your drums from? And do you have any recommendations where we can get them from? And what are your top 5 soft synths for basses? Um, I use the same things y'all use. I go to Splice, I go to sounds.com, I go to, you know, I have drums inside of UVI plug. What's it called? I wish I can open up my Ableton real quick, but um, it's stock drums sometimes that I use, and of course I have my MPC drums that I, put all the work in and sampled years ago, and they still work. But I don't necessarily I'm just picking sounds from a whole different perspective. I'm picking sounds for what I want it to do inside the mix and the frequency that I wanted to the role and the frequencies that I wanted to play. Like I'm not just, you know, grabbing a drum because it's unique. Depending on what it depends on the production, but I'm grabbing a drum because it's great for the punch. It's great for the low end, or it does have a great sound, but I do need to add something to it to make it because I need that punch or I need that wideness or whatever. So I'm really digging and sorting through anything that I can find to find the drum that's going to do the job. You know what I mean? It's not that I want a particular sound of anybody else or anything like that. It's just something that I'm trying to achieve. I want it to knock a certain way and hit a certain way. So it really doesn't matter where your drums come from. A lot of us are using a lot of these drum sounds have been the same recycled drums. It's nothing different. They've been processed over and over and over again, so they start to sound different. But you know, they originate from years ago. So I don't think anybody is reinventing the wheel with a drum sound. We just kind of taking what we have and utilizing the things that we have access to. So get more into the frequency and the sonics versus the actual drum and the sound and things like that. But I mean, to answer your question, sometimes I use stylists for simple things. For they have a lot of tons of weird snares, tons of weird kicks, tons of weird toms, and those are the type of things you overlook. Omnisphere, not Omnisphere, but a Spectrasonic stylus that also makes Omnisphere. A lot of the drums back in the day came from Plug Sound Pro, which now has a plugin named Falcon that you can access the plug sounds. It's like their own version of Contact. Um, and they have what is the name of that plugin? Beat Anthology 2. And it just has tons of drums, old school drum sound and things like that. They also have something called Mayhem of Loops or something like that. And that also has tons of crazy drum loops, crazy drum sounds that you can just take, sample, and separate. So, what else? Different sample packs, different things. They come from anywhere. I have more drums than I ever use, and I find myself going back to the same drums a lot of the times just to do the job. Once I know that it's doing the job, I kind of don't. Unless it's a sound I'm trying to create, I kind of stick with the same thing. Um, I can't name the top five, but let me see. For basses, there's a bass that I use in Contact as a live bass that I use on a ton of things. Like if you listen to a Chris Brown record I did called "Add Me In," that's a bass line that I played on the bass sound in Contact that's called Scarby, I think. Scarby bass. And they have one that has 4 different settings. And I just use the first one. Like, I'm not doing a whole lot of sound design, even though I can, and I do at times, but not a whole lot. I really just stack things, put things together to create its own unique thing. All right. Thanks for doing that. Let me see. How do you select short reverbs on vocalists you work with? What are you listening for? How do you avoid that monotonous in lead vocals? I can't say. Is it T Hinter from Germany? Shout out Germany. Okay, so I don't necessarily, like I said, I don't dig into the vocals, but I know what I want to hear, and I let my engineer do their thing. I let Marcelo, whoever the mixer is going to be, do what they're going to do. I don't get in the way of their creative process and their art. All of this is art at the same time. So I don't get in their way. And then I come in and listen like, that's not what I feel like needs to happen for this record. So sometimes I dry the vocals out. Sometimes I might add a little bit more reverb. It needs to be a little more reverb. I allow them to select which reverb they use. Sometimes I get more specific. As I dig more and more into Ableton and start digging and sorting through more plugins and programs, I kind of start, okay, let's try this one because I was able to achieve this, so let's try this. And and that's how we do it. It has to be. You can't do these things for no reason. Like you have to have a purpose for everything that you apply to a record. There's a purpose for the reverb. There's a purpose for the delay. There's a purpose for the EQ. There's a purpose for a multi-band EQ. There's a purpose for multi-band compressor. There's a purpose for that distortion. Everything has a reason. Don't just slap it on because you heard it's cool on another record. Like that's not. It doesn't work. Every single song has a completely different DNA. Um, and a completely different mixture on how you put things together to make it sound. I think as a songwriter, what you want to try to do, being a songwriter and a producer, what you want to try to do is maintain the soul of a song from conception all the way through the mix. And you don't do that by adding a bunch of different things. You use plugins to enhance the emotion and the different things that's going on in the record. But you don't want to do it because you feel like that's how you're supposed to do it. So if you can think from a musical integrity standpoint from conception and emotion from conception, make it emotional. Keep it emotional. And it might seem like you being super technical when you start adding things and doing certain things. Yeah, I can unfold a lot of things in my mix and in my creation, but I can tell you why I did those things. It was something I was trying to, I could ask you the question, did you feel like this? Well, that's what I was trying to achieve. So try to emote as much as you can versus just, create. If you can marry the two, your creation with your emotion and musical integrity, that's where you come with those sounds that just start touching people internationally. Obviously, I have touched everybody internationally. I see Nigeria, Italy, Paris, London, Romania, every parts of the different parts of the world can relate to the music that I've made because I'm coming from an emotional place, a spiritual and a soulful place. Not to get too deep, but that's kind of the baseline of my creativity. All right, let me see. Let me go to the bottom, go up. I also use a VSync. I did use a VSync GT a lot. I'll get back to promiscuous. Raina, how many takes for the same vocal part do you tend to record to get the right amount of leeway to get creative? I'm not 100% sure if I understand the question completely, but I can say when I'm listening to an artist record the vocal, sometimes we're looking for perfection of the note and the melody and the lyric and the how they say it and things like that. But sometimes I'm listening for just how it was performed and how it hit me emotionally. It might not be perfect, but it might have did something. But we do, sometimes we do like, okay, this is the best example. We worked on Pink and we did Sober. We wrote the song all day. It was very chill, 1-day session. She wrote the song with Cara Diaguardi. She went in and recorded it and did 5 takes. Now, I felt that her very first take, she did 5 takes all the way down. I felt that her first take was awesome. The very first take. So she did 5 more and then we count the vocal. So you count the vocal and you just put together a bunch of different performances that you feel make the song. So it's up to you. Like if you're the producer and the songwriter, you have the control. There's no right or wrong. It's up to you and your taste. If you felt like this is it, then it's it. And if you can convince an artist that it's it, then more power to you. And if it's a hit, now you are the go-to person for the tastemaker. You know what I mean? So it depends. If you feel like you want to get a really amazing vocal, some vocalists aren't the greatest, but they are great artists. Okay, let me say it again. Some artists aren't the best vocalists, but they're great artists as well. So you get what you can, and then it's up to us to do the rest. Not that they don't do good takes and good jobs recording their music. It's just sometimes you push them and push them and push them to try to do something, and they don't necessarily understand how to perform it. So you get what you can, and at that moment is where you alter. Okay, let's try to do it this way, and so you can put it into what their capabilities and their abilities on performance. I think that's the best way to answer that one. Let's see. I'm gonna go up, I'm gonna come back down. Let's see. Are you using a lot of analog synths nowadays, or are you finding yourself more on software synth? That's a great question because I'm moving back into digging into some of my analog synths. There's actually like 2 or 3 that I want to buy. Some new stuff that came out. I just want to get back into getting that more unique sound. There's not too much new stuff that came out. Everybody's kind of using the same thing, which is fine. We all have different tastes and some of us use it different. But I feel so much better about where I am creatively. I just want to take another departure on my own unique sound. So I'm stepping back into using and wanting to use more analog synths. Like recently in some sessions, I pulled the TI-2 back out. That thing has so many amazing sound, things that I haven't heard in years. And a lot of my sounds in my old catalog, my whole catalog, are analog synths. I just used to have a bunch of analog synths. It was rarely any VSTs. I had a bunch of analog synths that I was pulling sounds from. And that's why my sound just it's very unique. But yeah, I've gotten lazy and I haven't wanted to be plugging up and setting all this stuff up and keeping track of everything. And, wanted to keep my setup simple. And, I don't feel like I've been getting the best out of myself. So I've been wanting to get back into the analog synths slowly but surely. And yeah, it's been fun and inspiring in a new way. So that's a great question. Man, so I can't even keep up with y'all. There's so many questions. Hold on. And I want to answer everybody, but hold on. Where we at? I went so far down to the bottom. Go back to the top. Daisy D, could you mentor me? I will be presenting the opportunity where I will be letting a lot of y'all into the doors very soon. Just stay tuned. What else? All right. Shout out. Dang, broken. How did yeah come about? Because the drums are nuts today. Daffy Carter. Dante Carter from Bronx, New York. How did Yeah 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 You Would come about? Because the drums are nuts on Dirty Money. Yeah, yeah. You know what it was? Okay, this is how it was with Dirty Money. Puff normally comes every album. Puff has a new speech, right? He has a brand new speech. He has a brand new declaration of independence or something that, you know, he brings into the studio. It's a whole new talk. It's a whole new energy, right? So he knows how to pump you up and hype you up and get you ready to go crazy creatively. Like he knows how to do that. So with Last Train to Paris, he was on his campaign and he would give us the breakdown and how he wanted to do it and this and these sounds and I need this and da 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 da, right? So he had hyped me up so much that and put me in such a zone. And we by that time we have done so many records together and we've been working together so much that, you know, I felt like I was his go-to guy. So he put me in a zone and, you know, I feel like, yeah, yeah, you would. After all my stuff was set up, that was probably one of the first few joints that I had made because it was just off the energy of him hyping me. And I went in and I just put up my Poly Evolver, found the craziest, weirdest sound I could find. I knew I wanted some bounce. And the drums and the way I used to do those drums is I would play the whole drum kit. Let's say if any of you have like addictive drums or something like that, right? I would pick a drum kit, I would pitch the whole drum kit up. I would pitch the whole thing up and I would play my rhythm. So I would basically be programming a break beat that I could sample. I would basically playing my own break beats. So I would sample it, then I would stack the drums on top of it. So there's always a backbeat or a break beat playing in those tracks. And once I got the groove and the tempo, and then I came with that, and that thing just whipping through the track. Um, at that point, I'm always trying to counter creatively. I mean, I'm always trying to counter the weirdness with something musical. And that's where I came with the chords. I wanted to make sure this thing could be sung to, written to, it's emotional, and you can break it down to its bare minimum. And acoustically, it still can be performed. So that's how that one came. And then that bass line, I just wanted something rude and weird and wicked and obnoxious. And I just used that bass. And it felt like rock and roll. It felt like all types of things. And I just wanted that thing buzzing right along with that boop, 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 and played the chords on top of it. So it was Puff. It was Puff amping me and hyping me up. Like, and that was crazy. And there was some other crazy things that didn't make the project, you know. But, you know, it's only a handful of people. Missy is one of those people that brings the absolute madness out of you. Justin is somebody that brings the absolute madness out of you. DJ Khaled brings the madness out of you. Puff brings the madness out of you. Obviously, working with Timbaland, he's so creative. You got to meet his creativity and match his creativity in the craziest way possible. So it's only a handful of people that just like brought the monster out and know how to get the monster out. And then I can take that energy and I can carry it on to other projects. So it was like after doing Future Sex and Loose and Shock Value, I'm taking all of that energy and I took it to Blackout. And they let me just run amok. I was just going nuts. And that's why that project came out the way it came out. So that's how that went. I probably over answered that question, but that's how that went. Shout out Tennessee, Memphis. Who else? Danny, what you doing in here? What you like, you know? Throw away unused beats on sound. Obviously, we said right new songs, maybe these SoundCloud. I'm gonna come back to that. Let me see. Brazil, what's happening? I seen Venezuela earlier. What's happening? To file management, keeping your sound. Okay, this is a great one. J Mac 101101. I think wondering what your approach is to file management, keeping your samples organized. Now I've become a maniac when it comes to organization. Like I just have to know where everything is at. Uh, you know, I don't necessarily categorize things. I just know where they are. I have, okay, this is my samples folder, and I have multiple folders in there. These are my plugins folders. I know what those are. Um, and when I go through and make my drum kits, that's kind of how I organize them. So I would make whatever random name I would call a drum kit, and I do them in series of 3 because it's so many sounds. So I'll take a sample and call it the Air Jordan pack. You know, Air Jordan kit. That's what I call it. I would call it the Air Jordan kit Alpha, the Air Jordan kit Bravo, the Air Jordan kit Charlie, and that's it. I would only do 3. Then I would do another pack. It could be 3-peat 1, 3-peat 2. You know what I mean? That's just how I do it. Sometimes it's all kicks, sometimes it's all snares, sometimes it's all claps. But I like to because of Ableton. Ableton allows me to play multiple things at one time, and it's easy to separate, which is the best thing ever. So my drum patterns and my grooves are now how I like to do them because I'm playing the kick and the snare and the clap or whatever at the same. I can play it at the same time, like how I used to do on the 4000 when I would record my drums in it. So now I do groups. You know, I do an octave of kicks, an octave of snares, an octave of claps, an octave of kicks, an octave of hats, an octave of perks in one key group. So I'm hitting all different types of things, and I can just play. I can play my kit how I want to play it, and it spreads everything out. And I put it in my custom library for Ableton. So, and those drums come from everywhere. I won't be able to keep track of where these things come from, but I can keep track of how I lay them out and how I put them down. All right, let's see. Alex Keys, I need that hard drive because I know it's probably the one that I've been looking for that got some crazy samples on it that I haven't been able to find. What do you recommend for live musicians to do to become producers? Man, you know the problem, I don't want to call it a problem. I consider myself a musician, but I think my advantage is that I'm not as good as a musician. So I have a limit. Even though I can expand and I can write some different things and crazy things, I have a limit. I'm not going to ever really get that musical because I just don't have I don't have the capacity. I don't have it. I mean, I might be downplaying myself a little bit, but I'm not as great as a keyboard player or as great as a real drummer. So the key is simplification. First of all, simplify what you're doing, and then learn any DAW system, listen to some records. And if you listen and pay attention to hit records, it's not a lot of things going on. I think I'm probably one of the only ones that's able to have hits with very rich production. But even I've learned how to bring it down a little bit, bring it back. But that's the first thing. Just try to work on simplifying your style musically and just writing what you need. And, anybody can do it from that point. You already have the advantage because you're rhythmic and you're melodic. So it's just applying that and learning how to use Logic or Ableton or whatever you want to do, or learn how to use plugins or whatever that, Pro Tools or whatever that is. All right, let's see. Speechless. I know I answered something before, but let me answer this one because I like it. Do you usually write with an artist in the room first, or do you bring up a pre-made beat for an artist in the studio to write to? So I used to just bring in beats that I had, and they would pick something and they would write. Lately, we've been writing to just chords. I would just play some chords and they would write, and then I would go and produce the record on my own time and take it whatever direction I want to go. At first it was frustrating, but once I understood it, I was like, oh no, I prefer to do it that way because now I can just write some chords. They do their thing, write a whole song. I just recently did a song that we did that too. But the trick in this particular song, I still use sounds that I was going to use in the production, but I didn't add everything. I didn't add any drums. I didn't add any bass. I didn't add anything. I just played my chord progression with the main sound that I was going to use. And the song came out nuts. And it was easier for me to produce it because it was already placed in a world that I wanted it in. Now, same session, we wrote to some chords, but I didn't put the record in the world that I wanted to be in. So I've been struggling a little bit because it's a great record, but I've been struggling with what direction to take it because it sounds so good the way it is. So it can help, it can hurt, it can make it challenging. I think I cracked the code by putting the record, playing some chords and using sounds that I would use in the production from based on the direction that I want to take it. And kudos to the writers who wrote it, were able to just do what they needed to do and still stylistically came up with something interesting to a bare track. So that was a great accomplishment and a great learning point for me. I learned something tremendously by doing it that way. But yeah, for the last few years, it's just been play some chords and let them write, and then I produce it when I get home. You know what I mean? But also it depends. You can't do that with hip hop. You can't necessarily. You can get away with it with R&B and rock and pop and stuff like that. But hip hop, they need a beat. They need some drums, even if it's just a bare beat. So it's just the opposite. So just something bare that they can catch a flow. Then you produce it later. So, but it's a mixture of both. Sometimes I'm playing beats, full beats. Sometimes I'm just programming some chords right on the spot. All right, I'm gonna skip down. I'm about to skip a lot of people, and I'm sorry, and I'm gonna come back. I'm gonna go down to the bottom. All right. What was the secret to those big kicks you get? Is it clever stacking in the MPC? If you want to call it clever stacking, Mac and Diesel, shout out Mac and Diesel. If you want to call it clever stacking, sure. But yeah, I used to stack a lot of drums. I don't do that anymore. Like if I do, I make a group in Ableton, keep my stack and blend it, but I mix it as one kick. So it's a stack, but I don't treat it like a stack. I make my blend, and then I close that group, and then I EQ the group. But back in the day, yeah, it was like a whole lot of stack, and sometimes I felt like it was some stack for no reason, like kicks and drums, and that's just come from being around Tim, and he used to just stack so much stuff. But nowadays, I think you can just find what you want. I'm all about the groove right now. I haven't been so crazy on the drum, like as far as the drum sound, the uniqueness of the drum sound. I've been more so like punishing myself trying to get the best drum sonics. I tuned my room in my studio to Dr. Dre, a lot of Dr. Dre, Deadmau5, Jimmy Douglas, Teddy Riley. I tuned my room to their mixes. Dr. Dre's What's the Difference Between Me and You? This is y'all homework. I need y'all to listen to that record and listen to the low end. If you can listen to it loud, listen to it loud. And you will understand how that man filled the entire, I feel like he filled the entire speaker. Like every frequency was coming out of that thing. And it all sounds incredible, and it sounds full, and it sounds big, and the louder it gets, the better it sounds. No distortion. And that's what I'm chasing. I'm chasing What's the difference? Like, I need my records to sound like what's the difference? Um, it's such an amazing mix on that record. I don't know what he did, but it's about selecting the drums to do that. So yeah, I've gotten out of stacking so much, and I just kind of select good sounds that's doing the job, without having to. And then, over time, you learn how to EQ. You learn how to pull the frequencies out of a drum that can help you achieve what adding a drum would do. But again, yes, there are some times where, okay, this is a dope drum sound. I cannot get by this, but it might be hollow. It might not. It might be punchy, but not bottom. So you got to find those things and balance it out. And like I said, once I get my blend, I group it. Don't touch it again. I never touch the blend again. But I do give it to my engineer to give them an option. I like to give my engineers options on if they want to reblend my stuff, because it might be something they want to achieve. And that's that. Let me see. You're asking questions so quick. I'm gonna go back up from Mac and Diesel. Do you feel like FL Studio is the reason there are so many basic trap beats? I don't think it matter what you use. Like, if the sound is the sound, that's what it was gonna be. So the sound, it's not about Fruity Loops. It's about that's where music has went. So no matter what you're using, people are gonna make trap beats because that's just what they feel like is the current wave right now. Top plugins for unique drum textures. I would say start with sound selection first, and then yeah, for texture, I'm still looking for that. I'm still looking for something to give me some grit or something. I can't answer that one because I'm still searching. Uh, what was your pro? Oh, that was Isaac Balance. Shout out Isaac Balance. Darren Mays. Shout out. What was your approach to making Days Go by Rico Love? Shout out Rico Love. I just wanted to make something timeless and classic. Like, I just wanted to break away. It was a time period where I just got away from trying to do the most craziest sounding thing with synthesizers and samples and weird kicks and drums and drum patterns and stuff. I just got away from it, and I just wanted to be a musician that's making good timeless classic music. And Days Go By was in that era and time, and I just tapped into the zeitgeist of an era, and that's how that thing come out. And that's one of my favorite records to this day. It's one of my favorite production, one of my favorite songs. Like, it was slept on and overlooked, but so is a lot of my other stuff. But I think it's there. I think it's there for time to catch up, and you can play it you can play it 5 years from now, even though it was done 5 years ago, and it'll still feel fresh. So, ultimately I accomplished what I wanted to accomplish. Um, will you be doing a Spice drum loop melody? I would love to do it, man. I just got to sort out some stuff. Once I really get and dig through my sounds and see the loops and things that I got, I'm definitely going to do that. It's something I wanted to do for sure. Kevin Sandoval from Boston. Shout out. I'm gonna get back to your question. I like that. I'm gonna get back to some of these questions where y'all asking me how some of this stuff was made, but I'm gonna remember. I just gotta remember before we close out to do that. Danja. Now, do you prefer Ableton Live or Logic Pro X? This is it Jochin Ramirez? Shout out. Ableton all day long, and I'm pissed at myself that I didn't even get in. I had Ableton since like 2011, and I just didn't use. I opened it up one time. It intimidated me so bad that I closed it. I got out of there. So, Ableton for sure, 1,000%. And if I can go back in time, I would have switched over. Just been whacked for 2 months, got the hang of it, and grew with the program. But I feel like it helped me tap back into some creativity that I got away from, and I love it. And the more I learned the program, the more I got into it, I think I'm just advancing at a faster rate. I'll tell you this: the moment I got through my learning curve, when I finally switched over, I got through my learning curve. It was about 2 or 3 months, but I was already kind of dibbling and dabbling and making my way. At this particular time, I fully committed. So by the time I fully committed, let's say 3 months go by, the first record that I did that was placed and that I consider a hit record was Shining for DJ Khaled. So that gave me all the confidence I needed to keep going and to keep doing what I was doing. So, and that was still me at the beginning and trying to figure and get a hang of it. I just got a hang of it. Like people like Ill Factor, shout out Ill Factor, Jimmy Douglas, even Tim, Lawrence from 1500. These people would show me different things and kind of hype me up to get on it. And once I did, it was over. I swear by it now, I wouldn't do anything different. I would try other things. Don't get me wrong. Like I hear UAD is making something, and I'm interested. I think I should learn, and I should know. I touched Cubase at one point. I did. I'm So Fly on Cubase actually. Um, and then Tim sampled that, and he added the drums and did his thing to it. So I've made records that I made hits in probably everything. I made a hit in the hits in the MPC, hits in the Cubase, hits in Logic, hits in Ableton. So it doesn't really matter. It's just about what do you use, what can you pull the most from. So I'm not gonna knock one over the other. It's about you. Like you might can connect to it better than I did. And I do feel like towards the end of the time that I started using Logic, I started understanding it more and like, okay, I get it. I get how to make my things sound. I actually feel like I can probably get a better mix out my records in Logic than Ableton, just because I understand what I want to do on my mixes more. And I feel like Logic gives me better, you know, it's better at it. But the creativity, so that's how I would sum it up. The creativity in Ableton is light years beyond Logic. But I feel like the sonics and Logic is killing Ableton. So I'm just trying to achieve as much as I can in one DAW system and stick with it. I don't want to really be bouncing around. I used to have a question, but just wanted to say thank you for sharing. Been so inspired. You don't have no. What is that, Imran Armin? I appreciate it, man. Thank you. Let's see. Bring the mat. What is it? Adita? Is that how you say it? I'm probably saying Aditya. I'm saying it all wrong. You quoted me saying brings the madness out of you. What tips have you for people looking to creatively inspire their teams, bands, producers? Man, I think that's a hard one, man, because I'm always trying to shout out to Mills. I gotta go ahead and get on you real quick. My guy, one of my guys at the studio, and he's came a long way. But I'm always trying some tactic to get him to step outside of his box. Tim used to just harass me. Tim will harass me. He'll make you feel crazy and tell you gotta whop him over the head with something, you know what I mean, something crazy. Then he gonna look at you like confused. So it's all different type of ways. He ain't mean no harm, but not to put people down, not by putting people down, but just try to put a person on your page. Like, this is what we trying to achieve. This is where I want to go. This is what I want to do. This is how I want to do it. Don't you want to go where I'm going? Like, I can't get there without you. It's just plead. You got to plead with your team and get them on the same page. So I can't really answer that question, but it's many different ways. And as a leader, if you're a leader, you'll find a way to motivate your team. VO357. Hello, good morning. Feels like it doesn't contain that many instruments, but it's a great track. Did you do that on purpose? I think yes. I think the bass and the lead synth sound was it. I just needed something to. But the driving part was the bass. Boom, 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 boom. And it was the sound of that 808. I had put distortion on the 808. That was when me and Polo was having distorted 808 battles. Even though I think Kanye kind of did it before us, we were both still claiming that we did it or who did it first. He did a good one, but Hello Good Morning did what it did, and I think it was the groove. It was so much movement in the track that I didn't need to add a bunch of musical elements. The claps, the hats, the actual drum pattern, the drive in the 808. Um, I didn't need much. Just a crazy intro and a drop. So that's all I focused on. And the tempo was such a great tempo that you don't have to add a lot of sounds, especially when it's moving. So that was my theory behind that one. Let's see. This is a good question. Could you get into publishing and how important it is to be on both sides of production and songwriting? Also, any other producer business knowledge would be awesome. Yeah, shoot me some music business questions. This is a good one to start with. I think I'm gonna give y'all 30 more minutes. I know we only had an hour. So publishing is important. I mean, if you wrote and made the track, you are due your portion of publishing. Uh, it has changed and evolved over the years as far as how it's split. Sometimes it used to be you do the music, you get 50, you do the lyric and melody, and then writers have to split the other 50. But now we just been busting it down and splitting everything as evenly as possible. I can say this: I have my biggest records. I have had 25% publishing on it. I split it with Tim, and then Tim, what I'm saying, it's me, Tim, Justin, or me, Tim, and Nelly, and whatever. We split it evenly, like everything was fair. And I've been able to accomplish some of the things financially that I've been able to accomplish with that much publishing. So, imagine some people who are getting 45 and 50 and, 65. So imagine somebody like Calvin Harris, who I think, I don't want to spread no rumors, but I feel like he did 100% of We Found Love. Who else is 100% of like Ryan Tedder and people like that who write 100% of songs, who produce and write? Like, if you write 100% of a song that is a hit, I couldn't count the money for you. I hope you got good attorneys and good business management and good people to count it for you, because you're going to make a lot of money. But yes, you should be diving. If you write something on a record, you should get publishing. I don't know what your percentage is going to be, but if you wrote a chord, if writing the rhythm, you writing some of the musical parts, if you help come up with some of the melody and the lyric, and I think you do a share of the publishing, and that's your legacy. That when you build up your catalog, that's how you eat for the rest of your life. I've been blessed to have a lot of earnings off my catalog, and it's been helpful in a lot of ways. And the more music that I make, it just add to it, and that's our lifeblood. That's what we work for. So if you want to sell your catalog at the end of the day for multi millions of dollars, then you can and set your life up straight. But even if you don't, you are going to make money as long as you breathing on this air, as long as your records are playing. I have records. All of those records that I did years ago still play and still make me money. You might not hear it on mainstream radio, but somehow, whether it's syncs from movies and TV commercials, and there's things that come, I couldn't even tell you how much my business manager getting sync requests and different things sent to him from my catalog and different songs. Let's take Bad Girls, for instance. Bad Girls wasn't a hit on radio, but Bad Girls is one of the top performers in my catalog financially, because it still get a lot of syncs and a lot of different things. So you need your publishing as a songwriter and a producer. You are due your publishing, and you should have them. So that's that. What is your advice for getting into contact with big artists in the music industry? Lloyd Hendricks. I think somebody else asked me this too. Man, that's a tough one, man. I think you just got to find your way. First of all, work on your craft and make sure you're not just trying to shoot anybody some nonsense and some music that just ain't dope. Make sure your music is tight first. Secondly, there's different symposiums and different, like Rico Love has a We Love Music thing that he does every year. He's open. He's one of the most. Oh, he actually inspires me because he's one of the most open people as far as letting people in and listening to people and checking people. Excuse me, checking people's stuff out. But yeah, I think getting it to a writer, getting it to a producer is the key because it's difficult to get to an A&R because A&Rs are all they're only looking for us. They're looking for us to, to do their job. They're not really taking chances on newer people. I don't feel like they are. So if you can get in a camp with me, you can get in a camp with Rico, you can get in a camp with Tim, and you learn from us and things like that, you have better chances. You have a better chance to get your music placed, learn, and build some relationships. So I would say, try to stay persistent and get your music to people. And of course, they got to be open. Like, I mean, I know that I haven't been the most open, but it's for a reason, and because I want to provide y'all a real way and a real opportunity with real business and and uh, and provide real growth. And like I said earlier, we're really close to achieving that, and I'm dying to get to work with some of you and get to let you guys in the doors and enhance your craft, but you make sure it's fire. um, Let me see. Hold on. Emails, quality, response, special. Uh, Let me see. I'm looking for another music industry question. I like this question. Sam Hatfield, how do you prepare yourself before you meet an artist? Do you already have a vision, direction in mind before you enter the room? Sometimes I do. I say this before I work with Madonna, and I was already listening to Madonna, but I literally bought her entire catalog and listened to her whole catalog on the way to London. And the same with Duran Duran. I bought the entire catalog. So I can see where they were, where they started, what the hits, what the sound, what haven't they done, what did they do? Maybe they did something that was hidden on the album that could be enhanced now. It didn't get as light of day, but it could be this is a sound that they tapped in then, like let's do it now. So you do your homework. You listen to these artists, listen to their music and the picture that they painted and the stories that they've told throughout their career, and then you go in with your idea, or not. You can go in with a blank slate and just let them tell you, hey, this is what I'm looking for, this is what I'm trying to do, and what I'm trying to achieve. So I've done that too. I didn't want to be I didn't want to have any of that old material on me or in my head because I would get locked in. So it depends. It depends on who this artist is and how you feel like the best approach to produce for them. But in some way or another, be prepared, either by doing your homework and listening, or yes, having some things ready to go for them. So let me see. I like your other question, Mike Lowry. What is the button that Dr. Dre pressed on you? I don't know if I can tell. I don't know if I can tell you. I know what the button is, but I don't want to give away his secret. But that thing turned his mixes into a giant right before your eyes. Because I seen him press it, and I seen it when it was off. And I was like, oh, it's jamming, it's hard. But then I seen him press the button like, wait a minute. That's something else just happened. So I don't want to give away his secret. Another music industry question. Where we at? Nah, I don't know. I don't know. Start with production. Is there one lesson, Raymond Doan? Is there any one lesson or tip that you wish you had known when you were first starting out with production? No, I think I came in with my raw ability, and I feel like I just I was at a point where it was just time for me to learn. Like I don't think I needed anything else that to get me where I was at the point before I met Tim and started working. Um, I just that was school was in session at that point, so I don't think there's anything I would have did differently or anything I could have added to my talent at that point. Um, do you prefer to stack up more than one EQ on one track? Yeah, I think that's fine because you it's multiple frequencies, right? Sometimes you can't. You might get one EQ to focus on one part of the frequency and just pull up another one because you want to dial into this. And sometimes you can't do it in one um, EQ. So yeah, I think it's okay to get a wide and bright synth. Chris Hart, shout out to Chris. I kind of answered your question before I shouted you out. Um, let me see. Let me see. Let me see. Let me go back down. Uh, the sound print 12 in tank. This is how I feel. How did you get this main synth to flow effortlessly and convey such emotion? Did you make the song? Tank was in the room when I did that track. He was in the room and we had a session, and that sound was so crazy by itself. I didn't do anything to the sound. I think it already had the verb. It already sounded like that, and I just played a melody that and built around it. And I say all the time, you have to have a star in the track. There's one star. There's one sound that's the star, and then everything else is a supporting cast. That was the star. Um, let's say Promiscuous Girl, the star was the doo 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 doo. Let's say Blackout, the star was the bass line. Doom 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 doom. It's the hook, it's the sound, it's everything. So when you have a sound playing multiple roles and wearing multiple hats in a track, that's your star. That's the guy that's building this whole thing around. What's another one? Uh, Obviously, My Love, the star of the track was the that was the thing carrying the whole beat. And then you don't want to clash with that. You don't want to put things around that clash with that thing. You got to let that live on its own. So it's you know it's you got two components. You do more than one thing in a track that make it hooky. I can't tell you what a hit is, but there's multiple elements that you add to one record to make it hook. The beat has to have a hook. The melody, there's a melody or some weird thing in there that's hooking you. Obviously, the top line melody and the chorus is a hook. So it's so many different hooks, and I think that's what we gave y'all was so many different hooks in a track that you don't know what to do. You just everything is your favorite thing, and you singing along with another thing. Every time you listen to it. Let me see. Let me see. From Boston, what is a fair portion to take when first starting out as a producer or when working with others on projects if you're the one made the beat and played on it? I mean, it's yours. Like it's yours. But I mean, you want to be fair. Like, one thing I hate doing is arguing over publishing. Like I find that to be petty. and I just don't like it. Like I don't like it. It bothers me. Um, so yeah, sometimes you got to fight for it, and sometimes you got to make that argument. But I don't like to do it, man. If we really collaborated, like we collaborated, let's just it is what it is. Like if it's four people in this room and we wrote this song, that's what it is. I don't like to argue over that stuff. Um, yeah, you do have those people who sit in and who knows this and sit in the rooms and try to claim publishing on things that ain't theirs, and you got to fight to keep them people out of there. But I try not to, me having an idea of uh, financially what can come of a certain amount. It lets me know, okay, I know if I don't go below this, I can be fine, especially if it's a hit song. So you never know, but it's yours. If you created it, it's yours. It's yours. Like you don't have to. You don't owe anybody anything. You can make that argument and make that fight all day. But yeah, if you collaborated, y'all have a discussion outside of the room because I hate those type of discussions in the room in the session during the session. Like that's just nah. Let's keep it creative. Let's keep it fun. Let's keep the energy great because I don't want to talk to you about no publishing. We about to do a trash song. So if I'm doing a trash song with you, what we talking about publishing for? Because it's not going anywhere. It's gonna sit on our hard drives with the rest of the things you don't argue about. So try to keep the energy in the room fresh, fun, easy, and to handle the business outside of the room. But you don't have to give anything up. It's you're entitled to what you have, but be fair. All right, let me see. How is it working with Kevin? Kevin Costner, man, is like a genius. He wrote "Knock You Down." He wrote a few other things. Obviously, his projects and his stuff. He was just nominated for a Grammy for Khaled with the Nipsey record, and he go in, he do his thing. I love working with him at the time because he think like a producer. It's things that I didn't have to direct him. He kind of already had a feel for it, and he was open minded. Like we didn't have any drawbacks on a creative idea. We didn't have bump heads on anything creative. He listened to me and followed his lead. I even followed his. I even learned from him sometimes. So uh, it's great when you're working with producers working with songwriters that think like a producer. And that's same with Rico Love, same with James Fauntleroy, same with a lot of the great people. They know how they want a song to go and how a track should go and what they want how the track should drop and all this different stuff. And I leave a person the freedom to do their thing. Um, Obviously, there's still a level of production that you have to take it um, once you get everything written and everything recorded. It's still up to us to make it a record. But someone who can kind of alleviate that stress is always good, and he's one of those. Shout out to KC. One last question. Somebody asked me something that I wanted to answer. They said, "What's the best advice that I ever got?" And you actually gonna have me thinking about that during this quarantine, because that is good. I can take this time to reflect on what I feel like some of the best advice. My career went by so fast. I feel like that it's been things and questions and events and stuff that I just kind of haven't got a chance to reflect on because it just happened so quick. But let me find one last question. I think that was Kevin Sandoval who asked that, but let me see. Real quick, somebody says the battle with Tim really coming up. I don't know, man. I put the energy out there. We gonna see what they say. It'll be awesome though. But hold on. Um, yes, you do got to get some 100%. I need some too. Um, can you break down the process of Hue of Blue? Shout out to Sin City Production. Man, I haven't listened to that thing in so long. I can't even tell you, but we got to figure out a way to do this again so I can answer some more of these questions. Future Sex Love Part 2. Mm, about all I can say about that. Hold on. I'm getting to another question. Hold on. Hold on. Did Jimmy run the drums through a tape machine? I think Jimmy did at some point on some stuff. We used the plug-in. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Yes, I love that the virus. It's just got so many crazy new sound because it don't sound like a Jupiter. You know what I'm saying? It don't sound like an old school. It don't sound like an old school synth. Even though old school synths are coming back, I feel like the TI2 is the future of old school. Yeah, how can I put it? It's like 20 years from now, the TI2 is going to be the one that people are going to go back to recreate some of these what they feel like is fresh sounding stuff, right? So it had a bunch of new sounds in it, like new stuff that still sounds futuristic and even right now. All right, let me get one more question. Blackout 2.0. Uh, do you work with newer artists on label opposed to established ones? I've worked with everybody. I work with everybody. Um, I don't know. I don't see no more questions. Man. I think that's it. I got it. I mean, I see plenty, but I don't know. I don't know. Um, yeah, that's it, man. That's it. Do you always look for an element that gives the track more presence? Hmm. Okay, this is my last question. What's your opinion on producers like K Tronada? And have you ever heard of Stromae? I have heard of Stromae. Greetings from Brussels. Shout out Brussels. K Tronada is incredible. I met him for the first time recently, and he dropped a couple of things off for somebody that was insane. Um, and he's dope. And there's a lot of different dudes. Like, I'm watching everybody. I see everybody. Obviously, Hit Boy. Obviously, um, what's his name? Boy Wonder. Obviously, um, I've been listening to Flume. Flume is crazy. Uh, everybody, man. I'm kind of watching everybody. I keep my eyes open because I'm competitive at the end of the day. So I'm listening to what people is doing. I'm looking for things to push me and to continue to push me. I feel like you have to stay fresh. You have to stay creative. You have to stay competitive, not in a way where you're envious and jealous and thinking you're better than everybody and egotistical or arrogant. Just in a way where you like, man, how he think of that? Let me go back to the drawing board and figure this out. So that's it, man. I would love to go another 30 if I could, but I'm gonna go ahead and tap out. I appreciate it. I hope to figure out some sort of way to answer more questions for y'all in the future. You can always hit my IG. I actually follow me on IG if you don't. Only one danger. Follow me on Twitter. No, Twitter is only one danger. Instagram is the only danger. And I do something called dropping jewels, or uh, where you can ask me questions and I answer the questions. So I kind of was doing this already on my page, and I would put it on my YouTube and answer these questions. So yeah, hit my YouTube and hit my social media, and I try to get to some of these answers in another way. But I appreciate Mix with the Masters for providing this opportunity for
Thank
us to
you.
yeah and
Thank you.
yeah and getting this done. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Danja. Thank you so much for doing it, and we hope to do it again soon.
Hey, y'all be safe and stay in the house and tuck away from this thing going on in the world. And this is the perfect time for you to get creative and dig into that box.
Thank you, everyone. See you soon. Thank you, Danja.
All right.
Bye.